So welcome back to the fourth video in this Basecamp series. I'll have the last one tomorrow. And today what I want to discuss is the alternatives. Now, the tools within Basecamp that are alternatives to tools that you're probably using. So what I'm going to do is go straight into it and show you basically what I mean. Now, this is a continuation from yesterday's project with Tim being the client, as it were. Lucy is the person who works for me. It's my demo account, and obviously me, who's a team member in this project. Now, as we know, there are 6 tools here: message board, project, chat, progress, schedule, and documents. And I'm going to start with chat. Now, chat is basically the Slack alternative. And I don't want to use the word alternative, but basically it's a replacement to Slack. Now, one thing I'm going to be talking about or saying a lot is context. Context matters, because when you're in a project, you want to make sure that everything to do with that project is in one place. How annoyed have you been where you've had an email or a Slack message or a calendar invite and I don't know, like an invite for an Asana project, and they're all disjointed. You have to go to lots of different places. Well, Basecamp keeps it all in one. And the Slack basically is what Basecamp called Campfire. I just called it chat because it's easier for my clients to understand what it is. So in the chat, being the replacement to Slack, you can make sure that everything that's discussed within the chat is a quick hash out about the project, nothing else, because you're talking to Tim, being the client, about the project. So everything that Tim, the client, needs to ask you, Lucy or me as the team member, can actually all go within chat. And again, it's very, very simple. If you notice on the top left, you've got this yellow banner saying that the client can see everything in chat, because again, this Basecamp with all these different tools, you can choose who sees what. And in this Basecamp, I want the client to have an avenue to the team about this particular project, and that's why it's set up like this. So again, the campfire feature in, as I said, I called it chat. The campfire feature in Basecamp is the replacement to Slack. Now the next one, I called it projects, but it's actually to-do list. You can have different lists basically within the project. So I can actually create one here called admin, and I only want, if you see here, you can actually choose whether you want, if it's private to the team or whether the client can see it. So I just want to have this as admin, and I can create tasks straight away. So again, this, even though it looks simple, it's really, really quite powerful because of the way it works. But it is simple in the fact that it doesn't have loads of bells and whistles that you just don't use and don't need. Now, someone recently talked about having making 100 videos, and they use Trello because it makes it easier. Certain things you might need to use different products, but even that you can actually do in this, because you can have different lists, different tasks within different lists, and actually have it all within that one project. So again, you can create different task lists, as many as you want, and you can choose whether the client sees it or whether it's personal, private to the team. So that's basically the replacement to Slack, Asana, Todoist, and things like that. The next tool is the message board. Now, the message board is literally just that. It's a kind of a message board. And for me, when I'm working with my clients, I want them to use Basecamp so everything is in one place. Again, context matters. So I use message board like as an alternative to email. So I don't want the clients to email me. I don't want to email the clients, because when I email clients, often they say, I've lost my email, I don't know where it is, I'm sorry, I didn't see it, because a lot of people don't organize their email as much as the next person does. This is what I'm teaching people. So people lose emails, and also with emails, Even it's not threaded. I mean, you can see the conversation. Like, have you ever had an email thread where it's like re, and then you have to go and dig and find that information that you need? Well, with message board, it's literally a message board. It's almost like a email in the sense that you can put the information in there, write down what you need, and everyone can comment on it underneath. But each message has a context to the project, so actually it's all in one place. So again, it negates the fact of sending emails backwards and forwards between you and your client. I always say you should never send emails internally anyway. So if you're using Basecamp, there's always the HQ where you're talking amongst your colleagues about company-wide stuff. So the message board is actually really, really handy for getting rid of email, basically. So the next one is documents. Now, documents, again, is, how many times have you worked on a project where you've sent a link to the client who probably doesn't have, what's it called? Dropbox, sorry. Or a Google account, and they can't access the file, and then suddenly they get an email, and then they lose the email, and they don't realize where that link is and whether they've signed up for it. I mean, it's just a headache. So with the documents area, the documents tool within a Basecamp, you can actually put everything to do with the project there. So in here, I've created one called resources and that the client sees, and I've called one admin where the client doesn't see. And these are folders within the whole documents area. So you can create as many folders as you want, but anything that has this yellow banner as before, the client sees. So I can put any information in this folder, and then the client has access to it. But if I put something in this admin folder, only the team sees it. So again, it's a replacement for Google Drive. It's a replacement. Sometimes it's even a replacement for Google Docs, because you can actually just create a doc in there. So if I go into here and say, I want to create a doc, I can just create a doc. And then once it's created, people can actually comment on that as well. So parts of Google Docs can actually be replaced with this as well. So again, context matters. Everything to do with the project, all the documents, invoices, I don't know, like if you're working on a website, all the snippets of code maybe or whatever, they can all basically be put into here. Even if you're working with a photographer, you can give access to the photographer, access to Basecamp, and they can actually put the photos in there so the client sees automatically what's going on, which is really handy. Now the next one is the schedule. Now, schedule and the to-do list up here, I'll go to the to-do list in a moment, but basically it shows up in the schedule. So in the schedule is basically exactly that. It's a calendar. Now again, these people ask me, well, what's the point of having it in here? Again, context matters. If I create, let's do this now. Let's create an event. I want the client to see this, and this is a photo shoot, right, for the client. It's on Thursday. It's only for half an hour. I need the client to be there, and just pretend I'm the photographer, and the photographer needs to be there. And I will say here, bring Wolf, because we need to do photos with Wolf. And here, at the bottom here, I can change to see who's notified. And obviously, if these people are coming, I want them to all to be notified. But you can disable certain people, and they won't be notified. So let's post this event. Now that event has actually gone into the schedule. Now, why is this important? It's important because, again, how many times have you sent an email invite or a calendar invite to your client, and they've put it into their calendar, but there's no real context to it? You might have to put links within the calendar item where the files are, where the emails. I mean, it's just a mess. So having a schedule per project, per Basecamp, is actually really handy because, again, context matters and it's all in one place. So what the client can do, there's a link here. Add this schedule to your calendar, basically. So if you click on this, you notice that the client can then put this whole schedule into their calendar. So they don't have to, you don't have to worry about sending an email or sending a calendar invite. You just basically put it into the Basecamp, and as long as they have connected this to their calendar, they will see it in their personal calendar. So you don't have to see what's in their calendar. If they're sharing calendars or if you're sharing your calendar with them, they just have access to what's in the project. So everything is in one place. Now, talking about calendar, you can be quite granular with this. So basically each Basecamp has its own calendar, but you as someone who works in Basecamp with the organization, you can actually put the whole organization. So everything, so if you're part of several projects and several teams, and there are tasks and calendar invites per project or per team, you don't want to actually add every single project and every single team as a separate calendar, although some people do that. I don't think that's a good idea. So what you can actually do, if you go to My Stuff up here and then go to My Schedule, you'll notice that this is the schedule. Obviously there's nothing in here because this is my demo account again. It's Basecamp wide, so throughout all the projects and throughout all the teams that you're connected to, if you have agenda items and tasks within those projects and teams, you can actually have it all in one calendar. So this is actually how I work. So I put everything in my Basecamp, and on my calendar and on my Fantastical on my computer, I add my schedule basically from Basecamp. So then nobody, if I'm working, I mean, I work on my own, obviously, as you know, but if you're working with colleagues and you're sharing calendars, you don't want them to see when you're going to the dentist. Not that it matters, but there's no reason for them to do it, to see it, because it's got nothing to do with any kind of project. So you can actually kind of segment in that way. Sorry. So going back to the project, and that's the schedule. Now, going to the project, actually, meaning the task list, if I create a task here saying bring Wolf, I will assign it to myself, and I can say once I've done it, I will notify Kay, because again, it is to do it. This is for our team and not for the client. And I will say it's due, let's just do it due yesterday, and I'll show you something as well. So now if I go back to the schedule, you'll notice there is, if I go back to, so you see the schedule down here, sorry, let's show you down here, everything from today onwards. But notice there's a dot on yesterday because that's when I put in that task. So that task is actually in there. So again, if I go to my schedule here, you see exactly the same thing. So if I add this to my, subscribe to this to my calendar, I will actually see my tasks in my calendar as well, which is actually very, very handy. So the schedule basically shows you everything. Let me change that to today so I can show you. Let me change that to tomorrow, actually. I'll save this, and then I will go to the schedule. And you notice you can actually see everything in the schedule from today, whether it's a task or whether it's just a normal schedule. So again, the schedule basically is the replacement to Google Calendar, to sending an invite, to subscribing to different people's Google Calendar. So I've seen companies where there's a bunch of people, and sometimes they have one calendar and everyone puts everything in it, which again is a headache. Or they subscribe to each and everybody's calendar, so you see everything in one place. So you get loads, and I mean it's just a headache. This, you can be really granular with it and actually have anything per project, so the client just sees everything about that project. Again, context matters. It's all in one Basecamp and it's all in one place. Now, the last tool I want to talk about is the automatic check-ins, which I call Progress. Now, in here, is questions that if as a coach, I ask my clients. And in fact, these are ones that are automatically created when you create a new project. But they're actually really good questions. So are you blocked in anything? So you can actually ask, as you notice here, again, the yellow banner, I'm asking the client this question every Wednesday at 4 o'clock. I don't need to ask anyone else, and I save. So every Wednesday, the client, however many people are in that client group, whoever's the client, basically, however many people are actually in this project, I should say, gets to see these questions. Now, as a coach, trainer, facilitator, or any kind of training that you're doing, this is invaluable. This, for me, is one of the main reasons I use Basecamp, apart from the fact that it's simple to use in general. But the fact that I can put my coaching, parts of my coaching, into autopilot. So I can ask my clients, is everything okay? How are you dealing with this? I can even send them tasks effectively through the task, but I can also put a question in here as well and get them to ask it. And that part of it is then automatic. So before, what I was doing is creating a task in my task manager to remind me to create an email to send to the client. Now, oftentimes, clients didn't see the emails, they didn't see what's going on. Oftentimes, I would forget the exact question and stuff like that. It was just a mess. Now, when I do this with my clients, they know what's going on, and they're thankful that I'm asking those questions. Now, obviously, it's being a little automatic. Maybe, to some people might be weird, but it's still a question that they interact with. And once they reply, because it's threaded here, you can just keep discussing that issue throughout the period of the project. So that's actually a really, this automatic check-in is actually a really great feature in Basecamp. So they are basically the 6 tools, which are replacements to the tools that you're probably using. So again, an overview. Chat is the replacement to Slack. Task list, which I called projects, is a replacement to Asana and Todoist and Trello. Forgot that name. Message board is basically a replacement for emails, but on top of that, it's a place where we communicate with the client and have it threaded so we can actually talk about specific things. Again, context matters. Documents is a replacement for things like Box.com, Google Drive, Dropbox and everything, so we can actually all be in one place and we don't have to worry about going to different locations for anything to do with that project. Schedule is exactly just that. Anything scheduled related to the project is all in one place, which basically replaces sending invites for Google Calendar and so on. And different people have different types of calendars, so this kind of basically puts it all in one place. And the automatic check-ins, which I call progress, is a new feature that isn't anywhere else. It just helps you make your process easier when you're working with the client. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Again, it's another long video, but I really like doing these kind of videos, so I want to explain as much as I can. If you have any questions, put them down below or send me an email through my website. Hopefully this was beneficial. Tomorrow will be the last video in this series of Basecamp, and I'll see you then. Have a great day. Ciao. Bye-bye.